Le Mans 1966. Three Ford GT40s come out of the last corner side by side and cross the line together. And the man who crossed it first is told on the spot that he has lost. He didn't crash, he didn't cheat. His own team took the win away from him. To understand why, you have to go back 3 years. To a handshake that never happened. In 1963, Enzo Ferrari is the most feared man in motorsport. 6 straight victories at Le Mans and a factory in Maranello that builds road cars only to pay for the race team. Henry Ford II runs the second largest company on earth and has never won anything. One of them is about to insult the other so precisely that it costs him his independence. Why is Enzo even willing to sell? Because in 1956, his son Dino died at 24 of muscular dystrophy, and the man who built Ferrari has no heir and no successor. He is 65 years old, his road cars barely cover what they cost to make, and the racing he actually lives for eats every lira he has. Ford's answer to never winning is simple: buy a company that always wins. In the spring of 1963, Ford sends accountants into Maranello to open Ferrari's books and offers $18 million for the whole thing. Enzo, who is short of money and tired of funding a race team out of his own pocket, sits down to sign. Then he reads the clause: Ford will own the racing team, control its budget, and hold a veto over which races Ferrari may enter, including the Indianapolis 500, because Ford has its own car there and wants no competition from a subsidiary. Enzo has just been handed a contract that turns him into an employee. So he walks out. On the way, he tells the Americans, in words that got politer every time they were retold, that their cars are ugly, their factory is ugly, and their chairman is not the Agnelli of Detroit. Ford's negotiators fly home, having spent months and a fortune auditing a company they will never own. Henry Ford II does not shout. He gives an instruction that becomes the most expensive sentence in motorsport. We are going to beat his ass at Le Mans. No budget is attached because there is no limit. The second largest company on earth is now pointed at one old man in Italy. What Ford builds is 40 inches tall. They buy a British racing firm for its chassis, drop an American V8 behind the driver, and call it the GT40. The number is simply its height in inches. It is fast enough to frighten its own drivers on the Mulsanne Straight, and in 1964 it is nowhere near finished. Le Mans, 1964. 3 Fords start the race. 3 Fords stop. Gearboxes first, then a fire. Ferrari takes another win without being troubled by any of it. In Dearborn, the engineers are told the same thing they will be told every year until it works: fix it. Le Mans, 1965. Ford brings more cars, bigger engines, a bigger crew. Every one of them breaks, 6 starters, 6 retirements, and the race is won by a Ferrari sold to a private American team. 2 years, 2 humiliations, and Enzo has not had to lift a finger. So Ford stops trusting its own engineers and hands the entire program to an outsider. Carroll Shelby, a Texan chicken farmer who won Le Mans himself in 1959 and now builds cars in a shed in California. He is given the fastest, most fragile racing car in the world and told to make it survive 24 hours. Shelby brings in the one man who can tell him what is wrong: Ken Miles, a British test driver who reads a car through his hands. Miles has no glamour, no sponsor smile, and the finest mechanical instinct in the sport. He drives the car until it breaks, climbs out, and explains exactly why it broke. Together they stop trying to make the car delicate and make it enormous instead. A 7-litre engine borrowed from a Ford truck program, brakes that can be swapped complete during a pit stop, and a gearbox that finally holds. It is not elegant. It is a battering ram with a Ford badge on it. February 1966. Miles wins the Daytona 24 Hours. In March he wins Sebring. Nobody in history has ever won Daytona, Sebring and Le Mans in the same season. If he wins in June, he holds a record that can never be taken away from him. Remember that sentence. June 1966. Ford arrives at Le Mans with 8 of the big cars and a support operation the size of a small army. Ferrari arrives with 3. By midnight, the Ferraris are braking. An engine, then a gearbox, then the last one gone. For the first time in this fight, Enzo has nothing left on the track. By dawn, the race is Ford's to lose. Miles leads it. Behind him, Bruce McLaren and Chris Amon run second in another Ford, and a third Ford holds third place. Whatever happens now, the company that was insulted in Maranello has beaten Enzo Ferrari at his own race, which is where Ford's racing director Leo Beebe has an idea that has nothing to do with racing. 3 Fords, first, second and third, crossing the line side by side for the photograph. An image like that is worth more to Ford than any single driver's name in the results. So the pit board tells Miles to slow down. He's leading Le Mans by a comfortable margin in a car he personally made work, in the one season where the record is his to take, and he is being asked to hand it over for a marketing photograph. He slows down. What nobody in the Ford pit has checked is the rule. Le Mans measures distance covered, not the order of crossing. McLaren started further back on the grid, so in the same 24 hours, he has driven further. When the 3 cars cross together, the winner is not the car in front. Miles crosses the line first and is classified second. The Triple Crown is gone, taken by a few meters of starting grid position and a publicity picture. He climbs out of the car, and the story everyone tells afterwards is that he said almost nothing at all. 2 months later, on the 17th of August, Ken Miles is testing Ford's next car at Riverside in California when it leaves the track at speed. He's killed instantly. He never got his record. The photograph he was slowed down for hangs in the company's history instead. Ford wins Le Mans again in 1967 and again in 1968 and again in 1969, 4 years in a row. In 1967, Dan Gurney handed a magnum of champagne on the podium, shakes it and sprays the crowd, and invents a ritual that every winner in every sport has copied since. And Enzo? He never signs with Ford, but the money he refused still has to come from somewhere. And in 1969 he sells half of Ferrari to Fiat, keeping the only thing he ever actually cared about, the race team, and handing over the road cars he built solely to fund it. Ford's revenge is reckoned to have cost several times what buying Ferrari outright would have cost in the first place. Henry Ford II never regretted a dollar of it. He had wanted the one thing money supposedly cannot buy, beating Enzo Ferrari, and he had simply bought it. So who won? Enzo kept his company and his name. Ford got the trophy and the photograph. Ken Miles got neither, and Ferrari, 6-time champion of Le Mans, the most feared name in the sport, did not win that race overall again for 58 years. And then in 2023, 58 years after that last win, a Ferrari came back to Le Mans and won the whole race outright. Enzo had been dead for 35 years. The company he refused to sell was still there, still carrying his name, and still racing, which was the only part of it he ever wanted to keep. The GT40 is now one of the most valuable cars on Earth, and the reason is not engineering. It is that an old man in Italy read one clause, decided he would rather be poor than be an employee, and said something unforgivable to the richest customer he would ever have. So whose side are you on? Enzo, who threw away a fortune to keep control of his own name? Or Ford, who spent whatever it took to prove a point? Tell me in the comments, and if you would have signed that contract, hit like and subscribe. A new Feud opens the file every week. Next time, 2 men who invented the modern mind, called each other father and son, and then spent the rest of their lives trying to prove the other one was insane. Freud versus Jung. The file is already open.